As sunset approached, King Olaf had moved his troops into position. It was clear to Sir Chapman and the king that the attack would begin soon.
Aggleton, old friend, we're not far from sundown, and I'm going to need your finest work.
Aye, Chapman. It's been a while, mate. Whatever you need, my forge is here.
Whatever you can do with this metal, I've heard it forges brilliantly.
2 swords for you here, sir, but they're going to need names.
Another time, perhaps, but thank you for your work.
Sunwarden and Daybreaker, then, can't carry a sword without naming it.
There are bigger matters at stake here, old friend, than naming swords.
Have you made your final assessment, Sir Chapman?
We have plans to evacuate the villagers soon. We're finished, but not without a fight.
A terrible shame indeed. Was I a younger man, I'd be standing with you on these walls.
Thank you, Tattersson. Go now. It's time for us to take our positions. My liege, I've had a sword forged for you. It won't save us, but it'll certainly make it harder for them. Positions!
Garrick, sound the first horn. Have the mages ready their attack.
My king, the Octonarians are nowhere to be seen on this battlefield. Do they think we'll do all the work for them?
Oh, useless sun watchers. We don't much need them anyway. Tell me, Garrick, is that a second horn sounding?
Yes, my lord. Wasn't one of ours.
Chapman.
Archers, draw.
Chapman, listen. Chapman. They have mages. They have mages. They're using people to soul summon.
The mages needed only 2 more souls.
Dracomagnus, extendis surge, anmasas casca, et potentia manifesta sit.
What are you doing here?
I wanted to rule my home, Chapman, to be its protector and its source of strength, to protect my people.
Always a tyrant, Murphy. Why are you standing against your new king?
Because he'll burn the people I wanted to protect.
We can't stand against an army that large.
You couldn't stand against mine without the pillagers and an army of bears either. I have 100 men. They have 2,000. But I don't see any bears in their ranks.
Take this sword and this elytra.
Why?
Well, compared to yours, my sword arm needs no help in battle. And we have an elytra spare. Makes sense to give it to our 3rd strongest fighter.
3rd? What's its name? I'm not using some nameless sword.
I guess that is important. It's called Daybreaker.
You and the king need to handle their mages and their summons, or nothing will stop them.
The same mages that are behind 2,000 men.
You can fly. Just hop over them.
I guess that makes sense.
Don't think we have long until that beast comes out. Do your part.
Bring me fireworks. Archers, hold this line and fire the ballista.
The traitor has managed it twice in one sun cycle. Begin the charge and free the beast.
Diripe yet urbe iorum exure.
And just like that, the mages' summon was completed. They drew on the great beast from the end and infused it with their dark magic. The ground began to shake violently as their beast was transported into the world. The battle had begun. As the dragon hovered above the city, the king soared into the skies after the beast. Sir Chapman flew in the opposite direction to meet the mages before they could summon a second dragon.
Hello there.
He He fought valiantly against the mages and their few guards. Thankfully, the mages were still drained from the summoning. As he fought, the prisoners looked on hopefully. Able to defeat the guards, Sir Chapman sheathed his sword and captured the last surviving mage. The dragon was hovering above the city. Its soul was not used to this new body. As its large wings beat down upon the city, every single villager looked up in fear. They could see the defenses burning in the distance, and the dragon could cast a light fire upon them at any moment. This dragon seemed nervous to approach the city, its great reptilian eyes watching the king, and its giant green wings beating to stay as far from the king as possible. The dragon eventually swooped down into the city. It flew straight over and onto Fortress Isle. There it lay, waste to the ancient birch forest, turning the entire island into an ashy blaze. Now contented and familiar with its newly acquired power, it set off downriver into the heart of the city. Its beating wings threw a harsh current into the river, and it lay waste to all the farmlands in Canalis. The great dragon propelled itself to the very top of the cathedral, and once its claws had gained purchase on the edge of the tower, it began to rain down a blazing fire upon the entire city. Chunks of molten granite shot down from the cathedral's intricate masonry and lit raging infernos in every place they landed. It descended from the cathedral, narrowly missing the gardens, and began to terrorize the people in their homes, the clock tower and watchtower, and eventually the castle. The blinding light reflecting from the statue enraged the dragon. It burnt the statue with such vigor that the steel simply melted away and dripped into the canal beneath with a sharp hiss. Even those hiding in the cathedral were not free from the terror. The dragon burst through the windows and wandered the hall as if it were its own. The dragon had so far evaded the king's engagements, but was becoming predictable. It would circle the cathedral, attack, and then come to rest after each burn. The king was ready to try a new strategy. Instead of approaching the dragon's sword drawn, he was going to accelerate past the dragon as fast as possible, draw his sword, and attempt to drag the sword through the dragon. Each and every time this was tried, the dragon would repel the king with a harsh burst of flame, which was ruining every building within its path. Meanwhile, Murphy was defending a hill before the city walls. His men were outnumbered 20-1. Each and every time he downed a green cloak, another was there to fill the gap. But each time he lost his footing, he continued to press harder. Oluf's archers fired volley after volley of arrows into the crowds. Oluf understood that he had a much larger force, and so was not concerned about casualties on his side. if he could guarantee a shot on the octonarians. The octonarians did not bother with lines or formations. With such few numbers, any attempt to form one would be swiftly encircled by a spearhead formation. Instead, they relied on their light armor and used their greater agility as their weapon. Each ran randomly around the top of the hill. The Oluffians were exhausted from climbing the hill in their heavy armor and under fire, and so the octonarians were able to run circles around them. They struck opportunistically and hard. But whenever an octonarian lost their footing, they were quickly swarmed by the 20 armor-clad warriors chasing them. The king began to soar higher and use gravity to bolster the speed granted by his propulsion. The dragon couldn't dispatch fire quick enough, and the initial light bursts were almost always extinguished by the wind rushing against the king. The dragon was bleeding heavily and was no longer as agile. The king could fight him on the ground and then soar away with his self-mending elytra. The king was able to lure the enraged dragon into the arena, and much like Murphy once had, the dragon was met by a crowd of pillagers. With a torrent of crossbow bolts, the dragon was on its last legs, and the king swooped in to pierce the dragon one final time with his sword. Chapman began to negotiate with his captured mage.
I am not loyal to Olaf. Simply I serve anywhere I am needed. I will trade for my life.
Use your dark magic. Undo the damage.
I would need a tremendous amount of souls in order to work this magic.
Take mine and fix the damage.
Honorable, but you're simply not good enough. But I can feel a great soul about to be released elsewhere. Perhaps I can use his.
Oluf had expected an easy fight, but a single octonarian swordsman was without question worth 10 of any other. The attrition proved too much for the Oluffians, and demoralized, they began to flee.
Too many arrows.
The battle had raged through the night, and Murphy was undone by the many arrows he had taken.
One last sunrise, Murph. This one's yours.
Is that it?
Every back in that town feels a warm sun. Without you, they wouldn't. Did you need more from this life?
It's just over so quickly.
Well, we can sit here and watch the rest of the story together.
I guess the most important part of any story is the person who's watching it.
Now you get it. Why else would it be written?